What is Georgia's biggest concern when they're playing Kentucky this weekend? What do the Dogs need to be worried about? It's obvious. It's the run defense. It's the run defense. And the reason why we're saying that is because, look, last week, Auburn ran for a good bit of yards. They ran for over 200 yards against Georgia, 211 if I remember correctly. I've got some numbers in front of me, so I'll be more accurate than that. But, look, Jarquez Hunter, Peyton Thorne, Robbie Ashford, Beatty, I can't remember his first name, Batty for Auburn. Look, they ran well against Georgia. Now, you take away the 61-yard Peyton Thorne run in the first half, and their yards per carry goes from about 5.1 to 3.7. Here, look, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. The run happened. The 61-yard run happened. That's part of the stats, right? Georgia allowed 5.1 yards per carry. They didn't allow 3.7 yards per carry, right? Because that 61-yard happened. Guess what? That 61-yard run led to points because it flipped the field, right? So those things matter. And guess what? It also came off of a turnover for Georgia. So all of that is to talk about the run defense and more so the defense in general. I think Georgia's offense can score. But what we're seeing is that they're just not getting as many possessions in the first half, right? I think Kirby, they only had 4 a couple of games ago, 4 first-half possessions. So right there, you can only score 28 possible points off of that, right? Just off of that. Your concern with Kentucky is if they can run the ball well, they're going to chew a bunch of clock, and Georgia's just not going to have the ball as many times. I think people are worried about, why can this team only muster up 27? Why can this team only muster up 24 against Auburn and South Carolina? And I get it, right? You would think that they can score better than that, and they haven't been able to. Now, look, they put up 48 against, they put up 48, 45, and 49 against UT Martin, Ball State, and UAB, right? So they've gotten almost 50 3 times. But against these teams with tougher defenses, with more talent, just more talent across the board, better coaching, right? These are SEC schools. Georgia's defense has not been. Look, ironically, they only allowed 14 to South Carolina and 20. I mean, they allowed more points to UAB. Now, that was the third team, or whatever you want to call it. The starters were not out there for that final touchdown. But if Kentucky can run, if Ray Davis can get going a little bit and Kentucky can score a little bit, they're going to chew a bunch of clock, and that's going to keep Georgia from having the ball. So Georgia's defense, in my opinion, look, I know Kirby doesn't like our opinions a lot. I get it. But if they can't get off the field, if they can't get Georgia off the field, get the defense off the field, and keep Georgia's offense out there, it's going to be tough sledding for the Dogs. And look, we'll talk about this a little bit more and a little bit more, but I do think that Georgia is going to beat Kentucky. I think Georgia's going to beat Kentucky. And I think it'll be by a little bit more than a touchdown, right? I haven't quite, at the time of this video, I haven't 100% decided how I feel about that 14.5 point spread. So, and Dean and I and Matt, and Dean, Matt, and Dean, Matt, and myself, and I didn't mean to hit the mic. The 3 of us are going to be recording our picks video here soon, so I need to make up my mind about that. Still a little bit unsure about the line, but I do think Georgia pulls out a victory. Ryan Curley from Dog Post. Hey, real quick, make sure you're checking out our newsletter. Our insider newsletter is free. All you got to do is sign up with your email down below. There's no catch. Every single day in your inbox, every afternoon, you'll have an email with all of our top stories, all of the insider stories, all the free stories. Everything. You want to be a smarter Georgia fan? You want to be a really informed Georgia fan? Sign up for our newsletter down below because it is free. There's no catch with it. It's free. Ryan Curley here. And so I like to look at numbers. I try not to base too many things off of numbers. But Georgia's rush defense is 37th in the country. That's not elite. I wrote a story about this. Here, I'll pull it up. I wrote a story about this on Dog Post the other day, so you can go to dogpost.com if you want to see that. But look, Georgia's rush defense is not what it used to be, and I cannot find wow, we are having technical difficulties, just like we did on Riding Home the other day. I'm trying to get off of this screen. I'm trying to go back to my face. There we go. We're back. Georgia's rush defense was a lot better a couple years ago. And Kirby Smart actually just made a comment that I want to bring up in this because I agree to an extent, but he thinks football is just getting worse. He thinks football is getting worse across the board, right? We're not going to use that as an excuse for why Georgia's running defense is not what it was. It's not what it was because they don't have the players they had a couple years ago. There's no other way to put that. They don't have Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt and Jalen Carter and Trayvon Walker and Nolan Smith out there. A bunch of run stoppers who can also rush the passer. They're not out there. Those are first-round caliber. They were all first-round picks, right? Jalen Carter being probably the best player in this past draft. Trayvon Walker being the first overall pick in the draft before that. They don't have those guys, right? So it's tougher sledding for Georgia's defense. 2023 is not 21 and 22. 22 wasn't 21. All of these seasons are exclusive. There's a different scenario. There's a different life scenario. There's a different college football scenario this year. There's a different coaching staff. There's different personnel. So it's numbers are a comparison. Numbers get used as a comparison, but Georgia's rush defense is not what it was the last couple of years, and especially not 2 years ago. But we're far removed from 2 years ago. We're way too far from 2 years ago to be talking about it too much. But look, these leaders know. These leaders know. And running the football on both sides, the running game on both sides, offense and defense, they do not feel is up to their standard. Tate Ratledge on Monday, I mean, he was visibly upset. And this is not the first time he's been visibly upset about them not, adhering to the standard. But he's embarrassed. He's embarrassed that Georgia, isn't winning the strikes at the line of scrimmage. And guess what? Kentucky's a team that does that. Kentucky's a team that does that. And they talk about how physical this game is. All you hear all week long. Physical this, physical that. Kentucky's really physical. Well, it's because it's true. And these dogs get beat up after these games, and against Kentucky especially. Zion Logue said this. He said, us being fifth in rushing defense makes me sick. That was a couple weeks ago. And then they dropped to 17th, and then they dropped to 37th. So the rush defense, getting worse is a bad way to put it, right? But didn't have a great game against Auburn. And because running the ball chews the clock, to me, that's Georgia's one of their biggest concerns in this football game, is being able to shut that down, get off the field, make them throw the ball. Georgia's not going to have a problem with Kentucky if they can do that. If Georgia can really stop Kentucky's running game, it might not be a close game, right? Because that's how much more talented I think Georgia is. And, it being at home, it being at night, it's exciting. They get up for these games. They were excited to play Kentucky here 2 years ago. They were excited about that. They were excited about Arkansas at noon, at 3:30. At night, Brett Thorson last night was talking about you just get impatient. You're waiting all day long. So sometimes I think it can be a little detrimental, right? Because, you got to stay focused all day long or whatever it is that they need to do. But look, Georgia's going to play a lot of good running backs this year. Trevor Etienne, Quishon Judkins, right? One of the best running backs in the country. Ray Davis is next. And Kentucky's whole offensive running scheme is good when you look at their tight ends and how well they block. You look at their line. They've always had NFL linemen. They've had NFL linemen for a while. And they have Ray Davis, who Kirby Smart said was, I want to get the exact quote. He had high praise for Ray Davis. This was a quote from Monday. I've got it right here. He's an exceptional back. As good a back as I've seen in a long time. This guy's smooth, explosive. He pass protects really well. He protects the ball. He's aggressive in the way that he runs. It reminds me of Swift. He's just a little bit bigger. Comparing Ray Davis to DeAndre Swift. Well, guess what? DeAndre Swift used to terrorize Kentucky. Will Ray Davis terrorize Georgia? Will Kentucky's run game chew the clock out and get them points? If Georgia can stop that, they're winning this game.